So did you see the End of Obesity South Park streaming special?
I did. I think this was kind of one of their weaker specials, to be honest.
I thought it was really funny.
I don't know. It felt like it should have been like just an episode of South Park.
Yeah, well, that's kind of an interesting question. Is like it feels like South Park has completely canned the idea of 22-minute seasons now, and they've moved to. It feels like they've almost said like, all right, like we're doing victory laps. We don't want to be doing the 6 day to air, breaking our balls, losing our health over this show anymore. We're going to take a little extra time and make... one thing I do like about this new streaming special model with South Park is it does feel like they get to flesh out their beginning, middle, and end a bit better than a standard episode. Feels like it ends up going someplace,
Yeah, obvious. Yeah, because especially, I mean, it was really an interesting, fun spectacle with all the the truck sequence at the end, which was very elaborate, which was able to stretch out and be as ridiculous as it could be, and it had the proper lead up to it. But I don't know. I kind of felt the length of this one. I felt like it could have been like 30 minutes.
Yeah. So for those interested in what it was about, it was Cartman's fat, of course. He has been for 27 years now.
I'm just a poor fat kid. Poor little fat kid.
His doctor tells him about Ozempic, but he finds out that it's something like $1,200 a month. He can't afford it. Their answer is like, well, there's another option, which is you could take Lizzo every month, where you just give up on your standards and lower your standards and just don't care about being fat.
With Lizzo.
Guys, my worst fear has been actualized. I've been referenced in a South Park episode.
I've lowered my standards and my expectations.
That's the best joke of the whole thing.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And it turns out that all of the kind of affluent MILFs of South Park have been kind of hoarding all the Ozempic, and they're using it to lose the last 5 pounds or something. And so they all have these like really skinny tummies, and they're like twisting and showing them off in every sequence.
And Randy, he's wants to go do drugs or bring them drugs, and then he realizes that it's this is Ozempic thing, and so he gets hooked in with them, and they start stealing the drugs because there's a shortage, and they go on all these heists and they start stealing from even because Kyle's trying to make their own Ozempic because Cartman can't afford it, and so they even steal from them, and it's then it comes to a head with that hijacking the truck that they ordered.
Yeah, all the sugar cereal mascots. They want to run Ozempic out of town.
You think you can sell your drugs on our fucking turf? Only one drug is king in America, and that drug is sugar.
What I wanted to talk about is something I ran into a few months ago, and I've been wanting to talk about it on the podcast for a while. Is this Trey Parker and Matt Stone? They've had some crazy longevity in this town, and they've had a lot of success. Going from a small little cartoon and some indie movies to some of the most famous satirists of our time. With Book of Mormon, with Broadway, and Team America's an all-time classic. And I mean, they've really outdone themselves, and they've gone from young kind of rebels to old men.
We who are the Broadway establishment.
It's still cultural viewing. I think it's like, hey, the new South Park is out to comment on what's been going on in all of our lives, and that's still a part of being in the culture, is to watch a new South Park episode about it.
I mean, I still hear people saying put a chick in it, make it gay and stuff like that, and lame. And it's they just distilled something that's in the zeitgeist. Yeah. And people will repeat that forever.
Put a chick in it, make her gay.
After I discovered South Park, I followed their early stuff, and I really love their early stuff. I love their Basketball, Cannibal, Orgasmo era. I almost some days wish that there had been an alternate reality where they became live action stars for a while. I think there could have been, because they took a derpy comedy like Basketball, and just their presence in it, just their wit and their attitude, pulls that movie way, way up.
Even after when they got a lot of praise for Book of Mormon, I thought that might have been a pivot. They could have pivoted back to like movies and live action.
But you can tell they love South Park. They love making South Park.
You finish Book of Mormon, you open it, and then you run right back to do the South Park season. Was there any part of you in your minds after all this where you thought, you know what, that?
Not really, because we love South Park. That's still our thing.
It's still
you know,
so good. It's still so fun.
I think they think that like this is just the perfect sandbox for us.
Yeah, it's true, and it's like you can tell the passion is still there. It's not like, you know, The Simpsons is made by completely different people now. You know, it's like there's an ownership to it. There's a voice that's still there, and you can tell they still think about new ways to innovate it.
Yeah, so I had come across this video. There's a very short clip of it in that 6 Days to Air documentary, but somebody uploaded the whole thing to YouTube. As a matter of fact, they played it at some film festival or something, and somebody was filming the movie theater screen. And it's a video of Matt Stone and Jason McHugh, who I interviewed for Discount Film School. He was their producer and their classmate and their friend at CU Boulder. He was the producer of Cannibal the Musical and of Orgasmo, and I think he executive produced the pilot of South Park, but then he stopped being involved in South Park at some point kind of early on.
Learning to take care of business can pay big dividends. Senior Trey Parker just raised $100,000 to complete his first feature film.
What it all comes down to is budget. And now that we're trying to get this feature film done, it's the same thing, but on a much bigger scale.
And the video is like somebody from their, you know, they were in Los Angeles at this point. I think they had left college, and somebody from their film program who like wanted to check in on like what some of our graduates have been up to was just asking them some questions about like, hey, like now that you're in Los Angeles, did you find that the CU Boulder film department, you know, helped you prepare you for success or something? It's like, it's Matt, like he's got like a broken set of glasses that he put tape around, and he's talking about how broke he is. And
he's got $9. I got $9.
He has $9 to his name, and
I have $9 to my name. I'm now officially about 1,200 miles away from my house, and I have $9.
There's deep in it after they talk a little bit about their college experience. And one thing that, you know, Jason mentioned was that they had gone to a shorts series, like a film festival for shorts made by Columbia students, and they were like, it was just as good as anything that would have come out of CU Boulder. Like, I don't see what the big deal is with Columbia, you know. And this would be a theme. This is an important theme.
I was just at the Sundance Film Festival, and we saw a shorts program, and it was like Columbia University Showcase, and every film in there was not a dime better than anything that's been done at CU or some stuff. It was just over crap.
Matt says, he was like, hey, yeah, we were just recently at a screening of Cannibal, and Paramount, Touchstone, and Fox Television all came out to check it out. And he's like, and I think the reason they were there was partly for the movie, but mostly for Trey Parker.
Of importance, our LA screening, Paramount, Touchstone, and Fox Television were all there. Mostly halfway for new projects, halfway for the movie itself, and halfway for Trey Parker himself.
And the reason I think this is really fascinating is because Trey was not yet Trey.
Yeah.
But I think that it was evident even then that there was something there, that Hollywood was starting to see dollar signs in their eyes. And his best friend, who would go on to make all the many hundreds of millions with him, had his fucking back.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, really striking. Because he was like, I have no, you know, the guy with $9 in his pocket that has broken glasses. He's like, I think that Trey needs to get an agent. He says, I think that those studios meeting with Trey is like throwing meat to the dogs.
Oh, yeah.
He says, I think, you know, he's got more to gain than anybody there. That's like a winner's mindset, right? To be like, don't feel like you're lucky that they're there. You've got the most to gain from being there. He goes, I have no doubt in my mind that if he wanted to do creative development at one of these studios or something, he could have the job tomorrow. So don't say yes right away.
I have no doubt in my mind that if he went to any of those three and offered himself as a creative development person or to write scripts, he would have a job today if he wanted to. And what he should do is get an agent, because for Trey Parker to be walking into those offices is like throwing meat to dogs.
But for him, he's already gotten offers for script writing, and he will get many, many, many more. So he has the director, writer, and in this case, the real creative force behind the film has the most to gain out of what we did.
Yeah, he just was really like pushing his buddy. And that is so key to their success, because over and over and over again, they got some of the most amazing deals in all of Hollywood. They own half of South Park. They didn't when they first sold it to Comedy Central, but years later they renegotiated. Or, Book of Mormon being what it is. And like they've repeatedly, I think they own all online rights to South Park, which is incredible. Yeah. But they always put themselves in that position of leverage, that position of like, no, you're the lucky one. I'm not the lucky one. You're the lucky one. They said at some point, they were like, yeah, a lot of what we're finding is that a lot of the people that are out here that seem like they've been out here for a long time, or studio execs or whatever, who act like they know everything, they don't know shit.
Yeah. It's like they knew Trey Parker was money. Yeah. And they like it's in that kind of confidence. I think it was tangible. Like they could feel it. Yep. Like there was just like endless potential coming out of Trey Parker. And these were the guys that were his like we're looking out for him, we're gonna propel him, and it was very insightful. And it's like, wow, it's like you could feel like destiny in this little clip.
Most of the times they don't know shit. Most of the people you think who know a lot more than you do, they don't know anything.
I don't think Trey could have asked for a better friend than the person who says, don't say yes. And the person who's reminding you, like, don't feel like you're at the bottom of the totem pole. You've got your unlimited potential. You hear people talk about imposter syndrome, and these guys didn't have imposter syndrome, right?
No.
Instead, they kind of like shat on imposter syndrome. They're like, everybody wants to give you imposter syndrome, but it's all bullshit. And by the way, it's not like they then went and had a traditional comedy career. They reinvented like adult animation. Pretty awesome that it turned out the way it did. It seems like there was no way they weren't going to be successful with their talent. But the fact that they were like, I'm not going to just settle for the next thing to make the next buck, to make sure I have rent or something. The fact they didn't do that is what made it so they were able to collect all the chips at the end of the night.
I mean, and it's just in everything they did in those early days where they're making VHS tapes and sending them to people, and they had it. They had the pizzazz, they had the drive, and they knew it. Matt knew what Trey had. And he was willing to go to bat. They
never devalued themselves. You hear people say, bet on yourself. It's like these guys bet on themselves. I don't know if you probably didn't see the neighbor nerds that they did the South Park games.
No.
And, they mentioned like there should probably be a nerd episode about the South Park games. I was like, oh yeah, that seems like a really obvious choice. Because I would totally do the Chef's Love Shack, the kart racing one, the South Park Rally, the South Park N64 game. Totally. That would make great classic nerd fodder. Maybe it would be a good episode on. I could write it. Would you like me to write it, James?
Like finally, you agreed to write one episode.
Yeah, actually, I would like to write the South Park one. That sounds great. I thought it was interesting when Matt was like, as an actor, because it seemed like he was like open to the idea of being like a comedy actor. And he was like, a lot of actors don't have any features on their reels. He was like, I only have a feature on my reel.
So many actors, they don't have a feature on their reel. I don't have anything but a feature. So
that's something that always struck me as kind of interesting was they, for all of their talent, for all of their insight, for all of their good business moves, Cannibal the musical, I love it. It's life-changing for me. It wasn't Clerks. You know what I mean? Like it didn't, I don't know if it had anything that you could really like sell it. It didn't get into Sundance. Because it didn't really have anything that like the 90s indie film scene wanted.
How scary is it working with Kevin Smith?
Is Jason there?
Yeah. Hey, dude, I don't know what he's talking about.
Who's Kevin Smith?
I don't know.
How did we work with him?
Never.
It was great working with Kevin Smith.
It's almost like those guys had to get to like a Comedy Central. They had to get to like an MTV or something. They had to get through like the indie film scene because that wasn't where they were going to fit in. I mean, they made a big musical, like a horror musical, like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like a bigger movie than it needed to be in a lot of ways in order to like catch people's attention. You can imagine that like showing Clerks to investors might be like really interesting to them. Showing Cannibal the Musical to investors might be like, this is interesting.
Let's build a snowman. We can make him our best friend.
I guess the lesson is, so like if you're if you're confident in your talent, don't settle. If you have a friend who's talented, support them because they might need it. Tell them not to just take the next thing.
Or succumb to imposter syndrome. Just
right.
Be there. Bulk them up. Pump them up.
Don't feed their anxiety. I have always gotten the impression that Trey is a bit anxious, and that Matt has been, because there's this kind of open question, which is like, okay, Matt's funny and interesting and talented, but he's not Trey. Trey is making the show, and Matt is like appeasing him or something.
Even though we're a partnership, and I really do feel that way, Trey's the chef. I got calls for like, hey, you can direct. I got offers to direct studio comedies, like crap shit that I probably didn't want to do anyway. Yeah, maybe I could go fool people for a little bit, and maybe I might get lucky here or there with a scene or two, or I might pull off a little bit, but it's not in my DNA. So whatever I've got channels through him.
But I think, honestly, like Matt's therapeutic presence is probably a really big part of the success of the duo.
Yeah, I think he's a good foil.
Yeah. He's somebody that Trey just has like undying trust for, it would seem. Like there's just a lot of trust there.
You can sit there and be like, okay, well, it's all Eddie Van Halen. But as soon as David Lee Roth leaves, you're like, F that band. You know what I mean? It's like...
I've seen like there's a clip in 6 Days to Air where they were doing a photo shoot for press, and the photographer was the videographer was trying to get them to do something unnatural. Like he wanted them to like be like having casual conversation with one another or something. And he was like, we don't do that.
Are we talking to each other?
You can talk to each other, or
that'd be really weird.
Looking into camera as well.
Yeah, it's not gonna feel right. I'll tell you. Us talking to each other is not. We don't talk to each other like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it was Matt who was fighting with the guy, and Trey just sat there silently. So like Matt's like an advocate. I think he's been like an advocate for the show and for Trey, their whole career, and he's gotten to be a billionaire too as a result.
Yeah,
which is fucking crazy.
He made $1 gazillion. How is that? That's all I'm asking for.
He did not make $1 gazillion.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.